and welcome to episode 7 of Spooky Boy and the Spirit Sisters, a podcast for the strange and unusual,
by the strange and unusual.
We just want to take a second to thank everyone for their continued support of our podcast. All of your stories, experiences, and thoughts are greatly appreciated. Our goal has and always will be to create a safe space where anyone and everyone can open up and have discussions. We are not experts by any means. We are learning and exploring together alongside you all. We are being vulnerable and sharing our stories and experiences with you because we want to take this journey together and seek the truth together. We love hearing from our audience and sharing with our audience, but in order to keep doing so, we need your help. Please share this podcast with someone. Even convincing one person helps. Whether it's someone who's into this kind of stuff or even would benefit from anything we talk about. Along with our website, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Buzzsprout, YouTube with closed captioning, and so much more. To keep up to date with us, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So again, please share with us, so we can share with you. Thank you.
So for today's episode, we are going to dive back into our Divination series with part 2, where we're going to be talking about Tasseomancy, also known as Tasseography, also known as throwing cups, also known as reading tea leaves. We are joined today by a guest speaker, Crystal of Apothecary Teas.
Hello.
And she's going to teach us a little bit about the art of tea leaf reading while also showering us with her knowledge of teas. So, Crystal, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Crystal. I own and run the company Apothecary Teas. I have been studying tea divination for about a year and a half to 2 years now. The tea company Apothecary Teas has been around since 2017, so 3 years now. And I absolutely adore and love everything tea.
So, what is the art of reading tea leaves? It's a divination practice, but what exactly goes into that?
So tea leaf reading focuses mainly on the interpretation of how the tea leaves in your cup, your drinking cup, fall. There are a few other styles that include reading around the tea leaves or reading just the form of the tea leaf itself. But generally, it's what form the group or clumps of tea leaves fall into after drinking your cup.
Okay, actually, Lauren has absolutely no experience with reading tea leaves or any sort of tea divination whatsoever. So this is exciting, and this is all a learning experience for me.
Yeah, likewise.
Same. Yep. I feel like it's pretty mutual among the group.
Yeah.
When it comes to divination, tea leaf reading is not, it's kind of one of those fringe ones that not everybody gets into. You'll find a lot of, tarot reading and pendulum readings are pretty popular. Tasseomancy is one of those I can kind of consider it a fringe.
Okay. I've heard of tea leaf reading, and I've never come across it. But then again, I've never really been much of a tea drinker. I've usually, I reach for coffee or I'll reach for an energy drink before.
Yeah, same.
But I was going to say, you can do that with coffee, right?
Absolutely. You can use the grounds from coffee, dipping into a little history of it. But there was a time when wine drinking included sediments from the process of winemaking, and they would read the wine sediments as well. But especially modernly, tea leaf and coffee ground readings are more common.
Cool. Well, there you go, Lauren. You can do it with your coffee.
Yeah.
Or your wine.
Yes.
If you do find like a local winery, occasionally you'll find one that still has sediment in it. So if you come across one, you can use that as well.
Huh. Okay. That's a perfect segue, because we want to go briefly into the history of it, which most of its origins are in Asia, the Middle East, and even in ancient Greece. But in the Middle Eastern cultures, they mostly used coffee, so the sediment left over from the coffee was how they did their divining with it. It didn't really start making its rounds until the 17th century when it was brought over to Europe from China.
Well, I can hop in here. So, getting into a little bit of the history of tea itself, tea was said to be discovered by I can't think of the name right now, but an emperor, a Chinese emperor, who was said to be meditating under a tree when leaves fell into his boiling pot of water, and he just decided to fuck it, drink it anyway. We don't know how much of that is actually true and how much of that is just myth. But with the rich history of mysticism in China and Japan, it's likely to have started tea leaf reading starting back then. But there isn't really a comprehensive history of tea leaf reading on the market. The most recent history we have of it is from around the 17th century when the Romani peoples were said to have gone door to door offering this form of divination along with their many other talents. And then it became popularized by Victorian women in their tea rooms where they would have all of their girlfriends over, and they would do this for fun. And it kind of hopped onto that wagon of spiritualism and talking to the dead and that sort of thing. So it became popularized then, and then from there it just kind of became a folk magic.
So we did touch upon this in episode
5.
Yes, episode 5, how spiritualism started taking a rise, roughly around the Civil War. All these families, they lost their loved ones in the war, and here comes these practices where they're like, hey, do you want to get in touch with your loved ones? Do you want to figure out where the future is going to bring you? So we did touch on that.
Crystal, maybe you can jump in here, because tea leaf reading isn't more of communication with like past loved ones, communication with spirits. Is it more highlighting like omens, fortune telling, things like that?
I mean, it's a divination process. So like using a Ouija board is also part of divination. It's just a different means of it. You're using a tool to do stuff.
So if you wanted to ask a question about a loved one, you could possibly get answers.
Absolutely, yeah. You being a tool, you can use it however you see fit. Really, okay. I know there are classes of thought that say that all divination is ruled by the afterlife or the dead. I don't really kind of subscribe to that, because I feel like we live in a world that has so many different kinds of energies that different, and doesn't have to be the dead, like just the general energy of the world can influence your reading. Okay. But you absolutely could contact the other realms if that's what you're looking to do. It's not something that I do, because I'm more of an energy reader than I am a medium.
But would you say that tea leaf reading is more so about like the person? Would you say it's more so centered around the person reading the tea? So like versus like, how do I put it?
Are you thinking like slightly different than like tarot reading?
Right. Or like, for example, with the Ouija board, you're using that to contact someone or something, Mm-hmm. You're using that to basically, almost as like a
telephone.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like a metaphysical telephone. Whereas reading tea leaves is more so like, I wonder what's happening with my life, or I wonder what's happening with this specific situation. So would that be more of like a personal kind of thing versus let's talk to grandma who's been dead for 15 years?
I think it definitely would be more of a personal tool than it would be like a landline kind of a thing. I like to akin it to tarot in the sense that you're reading what's coming out of the cup. You're not trying to reach through the cup to something else.
Okay. So you're not gonna like do tea leaf reading, pour it out, and then see like, hi, grandma says hi, like kind of thing.
Right. No, I personally have never had a reading like that.
Okay.
Now, it's very much like tarot, where you kind of like see where things come out, and then you read that message that has come that way.
And with everything, you need to make sure that you have intent with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So why don't you walk us through? So we're actually currently, each of us is sipping on our own cup of tea, and we're going to do a little reading for each of us as we sip, and then our teacup strain. So we each had the tea. Why don't you walk us through that?
Sure. So with any kind of tool, you want to make sure you have the proper tool. So the first thing I'm going to start with is you should use a loose leaf tea. The larger the leaf, the smaller the leaf. It doesn't really matter as much. When it comes to tea, I recommend drinking one that you like versus one that's recommended to you, just for the main fact that you're going to be drinking it, for one, and you don't want to be sitting there sipping on a cup that you think is absolutely disgusting while trying to keep your question in your mind. So it doesn't matter if it's actual tea, if it's an herbal blend, as long as it's something that you like. But you want to try to stay away from like a tea bag. The tea that's in a tea bag can sometimes be too fine. Same thing with if you're doing a coffee ground, you want to make sure it's more of a medium grind than it is the powder fine grind, because then it can be a little bit more difficult to read. But yeah, the kind of tea depends on you, because you want to like it.
So what tea, because you obviously own a tea company, which of your teas would you recommend maybe using for this kind of divination practice?
If you're starting out, brand new, never used a tea before, again, find one you like. I recommend for those who say, I want to try this, but I don't really like tea, my Queen of Hearts blend is really popular. It's a hibiscus-based tea.
It's really good.
Yeah,
Amanda.
Amanda's not a huge tea drinker, but she loves this.
Yeah, it's really good.
It smells really good too.
It's a hibiscus-based tea. It does have strawberry and rose in it, as well as rose hips. So it's a very tangy, fruity kind of tea. So that one's a good one to start off with. If you like your black teas, the one I use is a Kimoon. It's one of my favorite black teas, and it gives the leaves aren't super big. They're like more of a medium leaf, so they can give you more of a wide variety of symbols. The other teas that we have here, we have the Tai Kuan Yin Oolong.
Delicious, by the way.
I'm drinking the autumn spice one, and I really love, is that orange peel in
Yes.
there? I love that. I love I can see it in the cup, and I can actually taste it, and the smell of it, I'm automatically drawn in. And the color of it, which, of course, because I'm an aesthetic slut, I'm going to be posting pictures of this online, but the color of it is a beautiful, amber color. Oh, it's awesome.
The autumn spice is a rooibos blend, which is a caffeine-free tea. The rooibos is a leaf from an African bush. And then included in it as well is cinnamon, clove, orange peel, and orange extract.
That is the tea I'm drinking as well, and it is so freaking good. For all you basic bitches out there that just want anything autumn related. It's
autumn in my
awesome.
mouth.
Yeah.
It's Halloween in my soul.
Always.
The autumn spice was actually one of the first teas that I created because I love cinnamon so much.
Yeah, and I'm going to butcher this, the Tai Kuan Yin Oolong?
Correct. Yeah,
oh, wow,
Tai
I
Kuan
said
Yin.
that right. Holy hell. But yeah, I mean, I've had oolong before, but this one's really smooth. Other ones I've had are very higher roast, it has a very roasted taste to
Deeper,
it.
yeah.
But this one was really mild and smooth, which was nice. Now, is there different versions of oolong and all that kind of stuff?
Dude, I could get into so much tea right now. So oolong is one of those tea categories that it's one of those that there's a lot of debate about, because it is an actual tea. So actual tea, black tea, green tea, oolong tea, pu'ers are all from the same Camellia sinensis plant. And white teas as well. So how they become those kind of teas depends on the process that they go through. And oolongs is one of those that the process is so wide and varied to be considered an oolong. It could be so lightly processed that it's more of a green tea, or so heavily processed it's more of a black tea. So when you say oolong, it is kind of a wider variety. Like you said, you had one that was much darker or deeper.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and this one's the Tai Kuan Yin. So the needle in the name represents the shape of it, because it is an unfurled tea leaf. So you'll see it, and it just looks like a little pine needle because it hasn't fully developed into a leaf yet. So the flavor is much more delicate than a regular full leaf tea. So the Moon Goddess is another one of those favorite teas of mine. It comes with blessed thistle and white peppercorn as well.
I have the Moon Goddess tea, and I'm almost out of it. So
Is that a hint?
yes. But now my question. So we're just drinking the tea as is, just tea and water. Does any additives affect the reading? So like people who put honey in their tea or like a sugar cube or cream, does that affect the reading or?
I'm a bit of a tea purist, so when you say you're adding stuff to my tea, I get a little offended.
Don't worry. I'm with you on that. I feel like it's the same thing like how I am with coffee. If it's a good coffee or it's good tea, you shouldn't need to add anything to it.
Right. But there are exceptions, obviously. Like I'll drink a good chai latte any day. But when it comes to tea leaf reading, I feel like if you're adding a sweetener, it doesn't affect the reading. If you're adding milk, though, it can make, depending on the type of milk, if it's a cream, like a thicker cream, it can affect the way the tea leaves fall. But otherwise, I mean, as long as you go in with the attention that, it's not, the leaves are being affected by an additive, it really shouldn't affect it. I personally haven't tried adding it with a cream. I have done it with a sweetener before, and I haven't had any issues with it. So you should be okay to add. Again, I think I'd like to default back to the drink it the way you like it, because if you're not enjoying your cup of tea, then it's going to affect your reading in general.
Okay. Simple question. What got you interested in reading tea leaves?
So it was kind of inevitable. I mean, I love tea so much, and I guess I didn't really mention it before, but I am a pagan, so being involved in divination has been a part of my ritual practice anyway. So when I decided that I finally decided to take learning tea leaf reading head on, it was just kind of a natural flow for me. And it was like, oh, I love tea. Oh, I love divination. So let's just get this party started.
Fair enough.
It did take me a little while longer than I think it probably should have, only because I was really intimidated by it to start. Because if you know any other types of divination, for instance, like pendulum or tarot, they're a little bit less intimidating in the sense that I feel like there are more standard rules that you follow. For instance, tarot literally has a book that tells you what individual card means, and you don't have to divine, is this the right shape, or is this, you're just playing that card. But then the more you look into it, the more comfortable you get into it, and I feel like I could have stopped a sentence ago.
No, it's okay.
No, you're good.
No, I completely understand, because I practice tarot readings and oracle readings. I've dabbled with pendulum work, but not too much. But even with tarot and oracle, like every deck you get, it's like, here's a book, but it's not the general book. It's like, here's the basis, but it's this person's spin on it, or it's that person's spin on it. Unless you have like the OG, is it Rider-Waite tarot card like deck, everything's different, and again, everything's up to interpretation. Like there's reversals, there's not reversals. We'll get into all that stuff in another part of this divination series.
Sorry if I keep asking.
I was going to ask, how long did it take you to feel comfortable to start like being able to understand these readings? Was there like a long learning curve, or did it feel natural?
I think it's definitely going to be different for everybody. It was hard for me to get out of my shell, because I feel like the portion where you're looking for shapes, I was getting in my own way, like I was second guessing myself, or not kind of tuning out enough to really see them. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're looking at the clouds and you see the different shapes in the clouds. I had a hard time doing that as a kid too. So it really depends on the person. It took me quite a few months, I think, to feel comfortable enough to really trust my readings. But for the most part, depending on how good or how in tune you are with your own reading skills. If you've been doing a certain divination for a long time, you'll probably pick it up faster than somebody who hasn't done anything before.
That makes sense.
So difficulty range sort of just really depends on how comfortable you feel.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing I think of when reading tea leaves is Harry Potter. Because, like, I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd. And the third movie is my favorite one. So in that scene where the teacher takes the cup and reads the tea leaves and she sees the Grim, like, full on, like, the actual dog. Like, is that what you see, like, when you look at it? I honestly, like...
Have you had any, like, super dramatic,
Yeah.
like, readings like that where it's just like, the Grim? Like,
I do. You have the Grim. So, I mean, yeah, Harry Potter is definitely probably the most popular interaction people have had with tea leaf reading, and it is very similar to that. They explained it very well in the movie and in the books that you drink your tea, and I don't know if they went into your intention. I think they just kind of, at the end of the tea leaf or tea cup, they just...
majority of the book while they were doing the divination classes, Harry was just like, this is bullshit. This is stupid. Like,
And it really breaks my heart a little bit that Hermione has a problem with divination because she's like my favorite person ever, and she's not a real person. But yeah, no, it's very similar. So like, if you take a look at the scene in the movie and you see the shapes at the bottom of the cup, it's very similar to that. They do use a finer ground of leaf than what I normally do, but it is very similar. Another one I want to throw out there is the show Outlander.
Yes. I was going to bring that one up too.
It's probably the second most popular one. I love that show as well. And you have the scene where Claire is sitting down with Mrs. Graham and she starts reading her cup, and then she goes into a little bit of palmistry after that. And it's again very much like that. And when it comes to the dramatics of it, I do have one reading that now makes a whole lot of sense. But I did the reading last year, and very often I'll find, you'll get a spread of a couple different symbols, and especially the tea that I was using at the time was a little finer as well. So you get a lot of different shapes. This one stuck to the bottom of the cup. It was just one circular, like, round black dot at the bottom of the cup. Nothing fell down the sides, which is very rare. And I mean, it could have just been a result of me drinking too much liquid out of the cup. But I'm looking at it, and the first thing that came to my mind was, like, shithole. Like, I was like, okay. Like, black hole, shithole. And the funny thing is I was doing a reading on what will the next year bring. And as we are in 2020, shithole rings a whole lot of bells.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Hurry, read mine right now.
Do you run into like having like any kind of unclear reading where you look at it and you're like, I don't really know what that means, or it's just...
Oh, absolutely. You got to be in the right mindset. If you're not in the right mindset, then, it can be hard to figure out what the shapes are, or, with any kind of divination, you'll get like a ask again later kind of response.
So then you just, like, pour yourself another cup and then do it, or do you have to, like, wait a little bit and do it that way?
Yeah, if I get a reading like that, it's usually because I'm either thinking of more than one question, or, the universe doesn't really have an answer for me quite yet. So I usually wait.
Okay.
Now, does the cup matter? Like,
That is a great question. So when you choose your tools, there are some people who say, like, you have to put your water in a teapot, or you have to do it certain different kinds of ways. When it comes to the cup, as long as it has somewhat sloping sides, I don't recommend a mug because it can be, like, too straight. The ones that you have are great. They are a little bit wider. The one that I have is a bit more narrow, but I have a lot of energy into this cup. So this is kind of an exception. But, like a wide bowl kind of shape is good, because that way you can get a little bit more caught around the sides instead of coming straight down. If all you have is a mug, that's fine. If that's what you want to work with, it's kind of like, whatever you throw your stones on or whatever you lay your cards on. It depends on you and what you feel comfortable with.
awesome.
Another thing I do want to add about teapots, though, I don't recommend brewing your tea in the teapot and then pouring into the cup unless unless you're doing a group divination. So, like, if you have a group of friends who want to know, like, the same question, or a group of business associates, or a family or something that has, like, the same common question, I feel like that's a great way to do it. In general, I think that starting with your cup adding your leaves to the bottom of the cup and then pouring the hot water on top of it.
Sweet.
Now, does the color of the cup matter? Is that a thing?
White is usually preferred because it's easier to read off of. If you have a black cup with a black tea, it'll be harder to read. But again, go with your flow. If you like the black cup and you're reading, something that's not super dark, go for it.
Are there certain topics that are easier to like read off of, like questions, like or,
your love life, or
yeah, or is it just like an overall like
crapshoot? Whatever shows up.
That's a good question because your question and the format in which you read your leaves can kind of coincide with each other. So if you're just looking for a general, like, what is next year going to bring me kind of question, then generally I don't go with a format in the cup. If you're going with a specific question of like yes or no, you can do something simple as divide your cup in half or in quarters and say yes, maybe, not really, no. So if you're doing yes or no questions, you can absolutely do those. Open-end questions are usually better because then you're doing more of the divination in the shape of the leaves versus where they are on the cup. Questions about time are very common because your cup being circular, you can throw the the clock face on there, or without going too much into the formats and stuff, just talking about the questions, you can really ask any kind of question. If you have a specific one in mind, just make sure you're thinking about it as you're drinking your cup, because that way you can kind of imbue that energy into the divination.
That is really interesting. Like, I'm glad that was asked, because I know with certain divination readings, like, the type of, like, how you structure your question and how you want the reading to go. Like, for example, pendulum work, like, it's, you have to ask, like, a yes, no, or maybe, like, something like that.
A definitive question versus an open-ended one.
Yeah. With tarot, you can't necessarily be like, is it a yes or a no? It'll give you, like, a overall,
yes,
like,
but
yeah. So, or this is how it'll go if you don't change what you're doing, or if you decide to change, this is how it's going to go. So tarot doesn't really work well with a yes or no. And then with Ouija, they have the yes or no on the board. So each divination practice is different. So, but this one, I didn't know you could use like yes or no questions.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you ever get like things like spelled out almost, or like
like with words,
little letters or something popping in there?
Occasionally, you'll get a letter. Like I had one where, and I know my family's not going to be listening to this, but I was asking a question about. It was a very personal question, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But I have a rocky past with my stepmother, whose name starts with a J, and part of my reading came back, and I knew very heavily that this subject was influenced by my past with her. And there in the bottom of my fucking cup, in the past section, was a very clear letter J, and I'm like, well, thank you.
Damn. I have a real hard question for you. What is your favorite tea?
Oh, God, that is so hard. They're all my little babies. I can't pick one. I don't know. If I have to pick one that says...
You have a top five.
Top five.
There you go.
Okay.
A little bit easier.
My favorite caffeine-free tea is definitely the autumn spice. I will have to go that route. I'm just going to pick my favorite in each tea category. Okay. So my favorite caffeine-free is the autumn spice. My favorite white tea, I have a tea called elder tea, which is a white tea with elderberry, elderflower, and blueberry flavor.
Ooh.
And
Right? Good.
my favorite green tea of it's so hard. I do have a new green tea that is about to come out. It's not on the website yet, so look forward to that. But it's called raspberry green. So it's a green tea with hibiscus and raspberry in it. My favorite black tea, it changes all the time. My newest black tea, I think, is called Persephone's Descent, which is...
Love that name. Yeah, I love that name.
I love naming my teas. They're so much fun. So it's inspired, obviously, by the myth of Persephone and her descent into Hades. I am toying with the idea of creating a Persephone's Ascent, but I'm not sure I'm going to go that route yet. But it's a Persephone's Descent is a smoky black tea, so you get that kind of like hellish kind of smoky feel with the bright hibiscus and pomegranate flavor in there.
I'm gonna buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
With,
straight up buying it.
The exciting part, though, is the smidgen of rosemary and ginger that are also included in it, which I've been toying with flavors of those two flavors together for a while, and I found one that I was really excited about. So
Austin was super excited that we were doing like a tea episode because he loves
I love tea. I grew up drinking tea, like Southern style tea, like all that kind of stuff. And that was like my main growing up with all of that. And then as I got older, I was like, I hate that I can't really taste tea and all I'm tasting is just the sugar behind everything. So I really started diving into trying just the store-bought brand ones where it's like,
the L word, which is a swear word in my house.
yeah, so that's what that was like the main one that we grew up with, and then I started branching off to like the ones where you got the like very small boxes, but you're paying like almost $10 for kind of stuff. But I was like, I really enjoyed like sipping on stuff like that, and I very much like fell in love with like English black teas and stuff like that.
Tea is a very, very much like a wine or an alcohol, in that you start off with one flavor, and then you the more you drink it, the more nuances you can get out of it. Actually, wine is a good comparison when it comes to general tea drinking. People usually start off with a sweeter wine, and then they go into the more deeper tones and such. But it's also like wine in the sense that, like I said before, the black oolong, pu'er, green, and white teas are all from the same plant. They all taste different, not just because of their production, but where they're grown. They're also affected by what's called terroir, which is a term that means the growing conditions of the plant affect the end taste. So the elevation of the plant that's grown in, the different soils that it's grown in, can all change the flavor of a tea.
Okay. Now, I'm a fan of like matcha tea. So how is matcha basically produced over like other green teas?
Matcha's fun. So you're actually drinking the whole leaf. So it's ground up leaf. It's not like when you drink a leaf tea, you're drinking the extract of said leaf. But when you're drinking matcha, you're just drinking the powdered leaf. So that's why matcha is actually the highest of all the caffeine levels in tea, because your body is processing the whole leaf and not just the tincture from it.
Is there any tea that you avoid that you're not really a fan of?
You did say you avoid the one with the L.
Yeah, if we're going brand, yeah, the L word teas. But I mean, there are a few store boughts that I like, mainly because I, to my detriment, have not been able to replicate them. But no, I don't think so. I don't think there's a tea that I avoid. I'm not a fan of matcha hot. Matcha iced lattes are my jam when it comes to iced teas. So, to give just a little bit of an overview of tea leaf reading. So we talked a little bit about the tools of like the type of cup you should use, teapots and that sort of thing, and what you can add into it, and the type of tea. When it comes to the actual reading yourself, the steps are pretty simple. So put the tea in the bottom of the cup, pour your water over it, sip your tea while you're thinking about your question or what it is you're looking to divine from it. And then once you get to the bottom of the cup, you want to leave just a little bit of water in there, which will help give the leaves their flow. So when I say a little bit, it kind of depends on the different types of tea. If you have a tea that's much finer, you want to have less water in there. And then if you have tea leaves that are a little bit larger, it's okay to have a little bit more in there. And then since, of course, you're drinking a loose leaf tea, you're going to have a little bit fall into your mouth,
Spitting it out or pulling it out of your teeth.
Do I have tea in my teeth?
See, and here's me over here. I'm just like, all right, don't get in my mouth.
Yes.
I only had one that like jumped in my mouth, and I was like,
if that happens, is it okay to be like and like put it back in, or do you just like swallow it? Like what?
Bad luck swallow it. For like the reading purpose. I think I know where she's getting at with that.
if you just get a random surprise in your mouth,
do you spit or swallow?
I'm
Very
keeping
personal
this
question.
It's okay to spit it back in or swallow.
This is staying
It's
in the
user's
podcast.
preference.
User's preference. It'll tell a lot about yourself, I guess. But if you decide to spit it back in or swallow it, it will not affect your reading.
Okay.
I tend to just take it out and
Might affect who you are as a person.
So yes, you're gonna drink your cup down to the dregs, and then you're gonna leave a little bit of liquid in there, and then next comes your tip over. So you want to put a napkin on the bottom or on the top of your saucer. So you should have a saucer. If you don't have a saucer with your cup, like a regular plate is fine. And then what you're gonna do, a lot of people will have different views on what you do next, on how you swirl it, how you turn the cup. And to me, go with the flow, feel what you want to feel. To me, I take the cup in my dominant hand by the handle, and I swirl it around until I feel it feels right, and I tip it over into my cup or onto my saucer, and then I leave it sit for a minute. You can either tap on the bottom, you can hold the cup to imbue your question. Some people will tell you to turn your cup a few times as it's turned over. But that's just kind of up to you. I feel like there's no set rules when it comes to that. It doesn't really change your reading one way or the other. But again, just do what feels right for you. All right. So, and then when it comes to flipping over, no ceremony, just flip it back over. And then when it comes to reading what's in your cup, there are different layouts you can use for your cup. So, in the segment that we talked about what kind of cup, there are special cups out there that you can purchase. The one that comes to mind is the Cup of Destiny, which already has writing on the cup and on the saucer, which you can use. And it's one of those that, like, if you really want a structure to your reading, those are good to go to because they come with their own booklet and that sort of stuff. If you're doing a blank reading with just a regular cup, you can use different formats. So again, I'm going to revert back to tarot. If you're familiar with it, you know that you can pull a card and then you have your own layout. So you start it in different positions, and different position can mean something different to each card. With your cup, because it's circular, there's some fun things you can do. So you can either imagine the face of a clock. So if you're looking for something time specific, if you want to separate out into quadrants, or if you want to do one that's really common is the lip of the cup. Oh, you're dividing it into three. So one that's really common is that you divide your cup into three portions, but not like in a pie graph sort of way, more of like a bullseye sort of way. So the very lip of the cup is what's happening now, or what's most immediately going to affect the question. What's in the middle of like on the sides of the cup, is kind of in the middle ground. What will happen soon, but not as far away if you have a time thing in your question or whatever. And then what's happening on the bottom of the cup is what is happening in the furthest part of your future. And so looking at my cup, I just kind of did a general, what will next month bring for me? Looking at my cup, I have a few spots around the lip, not too much going on in the center, and a very large clump going on at the bottom. My first initial thought, without looking at the symbols or looking at what shapes they make, my first initial thought is not a whole lot's going to happen the first part of the month, and then towards the end of the month, there might be a lot more going on. So you can look at your cup and just see kind of the volume of tea leaves and where they're placed can have meaning versus the actual shapes. So going into the lip of the cup, I'm holding my cup with the handle at the very top. To me, that's just kind of a centering. This is what the shape is going to look like. So looking at around the lip, I only have some on the right side, closest to the lip. And looking at that, I do see a bird. I do see a banana. All right. That's going to happen. Okay. I don't really get much else out of that one. And then the rest of the lip of my cup is pretty free. So I'm going to go ahead and write down bird and banana. Now, when it comes to symbols, I am no expert. How do you spell banana?
BANANAS.
Yeah, just think of
Come on,
Gwen
Gwen
Stefani.
Yeah. I was getting a little lost there. I for sure don't have a whole dictionary of symbols in my head. And sometimes it's just, you'll find something come up and then you have to look it up. When it comes to looking things up, you can Google. If you have a specific book that you use. I do have one book that I use sometimes, but if I feel like that's not really what I feel like that the cup is telling me, then you can look for another source. And that's just kind of, again, up to you. There are several resources that say, these specific symbols will mean something different when you're reading tea leaves, and that's okay. Some of those are accurate because, your leaves can only make certain shapes sometimes. All right, going back to my cup, the center of it doesn't have too much going on. The ones that I do have, let's see. And don't worry if it doesn't come to you right away. You can kind of zone out and tune into your cup and take a minute to see what's really going on for you.
Crystal, I'm going to have you look at this.
I was going to say,
I was gonna try, and I'm like,
I was really trying. I was like, maybe there's a frog. I don't know.
Hey, go with your feeling. If you feel like it's a frog, it's a frog. Boop.
Just a giant middle finger in the middle.
There are cups that have like the middle finger on the bottom of it. I love it. I do actually get a shape of like a teapot in my clump. So sometime at the end of this month, my business will be doing well.
Hey, awesome.
Hey. I'm also kind of getting a larger butterfly, which can mean like a change or a metamorphosis, which is a pretty common symbol. I mean, not just in tea leaf reading, but in any sort of divination. And that's at the bottom of my cup. So to me, that'll mean, there will be a change coming towards the end, but it'll be a change for the better. And I feel like that's all I'm really getting at the bottom. If I go back to the bird and banana at the top, I know birds are relatively a common kind of symbol. I'm going to go with this because it kind of came out to me as more of a sparrow than just a specific bird, and I'm not entirely sure what that specific type of bird is, and I don't know that banana's ever been used in symbols, so I'm going to look that one up.
You have a tropical paradise in your future.
That would be great. I could use a vacation. Okay. So I just wanted to share my reading about the bird and the banana that came out because it's hilarious. I have a Harry Potter thing going on right now. So the bird or sparrow can symbolize love. The banana is a symbol.
Where are you going with this?
Well, that's what's funny is because it came up that it's a fruit of energy, but it can also represent a lack of sexual pleasures. So I'm going to be in love, but I'm not going to have any sex.
Huh. And that's kind of. I mean, a banana is a phallic symbol,
Right.
so.
But lack of sexual pleasures, apparently.
Oh, okay.
So that's good news.
Now, I feel like my cup, it kind of depends on how I turn it around. It changes.
Yeah, I should have asked
Is there, a certain way that I should hold it while I'm looking at it or do all of these symbols maybe apply? It's similar.
It can be that. I usually start with the handle pointing at the 12 o'clock position. It kind of just gives you a standard set. Some people will say the handle should be pointing wherever your dominant hand is or however you drink it. Choose what feels right. If you want to have a standard position, I recommend having it at the top because it's pretty neutral.
Okay.
But if you're twisting it a lot and you're seeing that your one shape can be several different things, like I said with Lauren, pick which one feels right with you. Or it could be a metamorphosis in itself. Each symbol could have its own thing that as time goes on, as you turn the cup, it can change into those things.
I should say most of my stuff is at the very bottom and mostly kind of together.
same.
Mm-hmm.
I almost see kind of a shape of a crescent moon. This way. That's going out, so that's waning. A waning crescent moon. Wait, no. Yes, waxing gets bigger. Waning gets
smaller.
yes. So.
Well, I guess you can. Well, think about what your question was. If you want to share what your question is.
I was just generally asking how the rest of the year was gonna go, and especially with like my pagan practices, like just kind of a general, what can you tell me?
Yeah, and you
So-
have a waning mood, you said?
Yeah, like with something on either side, but like so almost looks like something. I can definitely see like a crescent, unless it's a banana. Oh fuck! I'm looking at you, big man.
Lack of sexual pleasures.
Yeah, I got nothing. I have no idea. Like it kind of looks like it could be a tree,
Yeah.
but it also could be a freaking lollipop. I don't know.
Amanda, that looks like a tree.
Okay.
I'm not trying to influence you, but
No, that's fine. I kind of thought it was a tree.
or
Yeah.
like maybe
Right.
even the mushroom.
We printed some general like tea leaf meanings too. So and we'll go ahead and we'll link that in the episode notes to the ones that we kind of used.
Okay, I'm starting to lose faith in these symbols because it's telling me unicorn means scandal. Like unicorns, scandalous. I don't know.
I would see magical and flamboyant.
Right?
All right, Chris, I'm going to have you
Okay.
read mine just because, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I see a frog. That's the one thing I sort of see. But everything else, I don't know. It just looks like clumps
What
of
was your
leaves.
question?
Should I chase certain endeavors, like business-wise and stuff like that?
Okay.
And I was trying to keep it like really broad.
Well, immediately the first thing I see was if I'm holding the cup with the handle at the top, I do see an arrow.
Okay.
To me, arrows meaning, journey forward, not think about what's going in the past, but you're just going to go straight forward, go straight for it. So if you're talking about certain endeavors, that's my first initial symbol that I get. So for that endeavor, I would say go for it. I want to see what frog comes up as, because that
I
is
know
a pretty clear frog. It's like
Yeah,
a three.
I mean-
Toad on here as well.
Yeah, because
But
frog
like-
on the symbol page says success in love and business.
Oh.
I'm right
Where's
here,
the
baby.
toad? Where is said toad?
Because it's, if you see the pictures of this is like a 3D frog. It's not just like an
Yeah.
image of a frog.
I think some of us got different like pages because Cassidy has a page that I don't have. So
I mean, it's possible.
Cassidy distributed them.
Whoops.
Okay, so yeah, toad says deceit and unexpected enemies,
Damn, what a shift.
and
from
that
frog.
has
so let's be
like
careful.
a house kind of thing over it.
Hmm.
Well, how do you know the difference between a frog and a toad? Like,
Well, this one, the toad, it says it has like a house over it.
Yeah, I don't know why a toad would have.
Why is a toad evil?
I don't
I
know.
want an evil
Well,
toad.
my first instinct was frog, not toad. So I
Okay,
think
cool,
you're in the
cool,
clear.
cool. I like frog. Positivity.
So, and again, I want to reiterate that you don't have to read all of the leaves. Just read, what jumps out at you or what you can actually symbolize out of it. And I get that arrow and the frog. So, your future endeavors, I say it's a go.
Sweet.
Cool. Crystal, can you look at mine?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, and your question?
I guess like my question was just, am I on the right path?
Got a whiff of this tea, and I just was like,
Oh, I know,
now I need
same.
some of it. Okay, the first thing that came to me was this wave symbol, and that could mean emotion. So my first guess is that this path that you're thinking of, either, and the way that the wave is sitting, it's not like an on top wave, it's like cutting it in half wave. So your emotions are getting in the way of your path. So either it's slowing you down or it's telling you that this path isn't for you. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this path isn't for you. It could just be your emotions getting in the way of that path.
So take that fear that you're always living with and throw it out the window.
shove your fear.
And I want to preface this reading also with we've met before, and I've actually done kind of an energy reading on you, and you've always kind of had that energy where you like pull yourself in and you block yourself off. So that could be true for a lot of things in your life.
All of us are looking at her like,
So I'm honestly not getting too much else from this. I feel like your emotions are blocking me out of your reading even. They're just so strong.
Interesting. Okay.
Rude.
Because I can't, like, every time I try to, like, go around the cup to, like, get past that wave, it's, like, just stopping me there. Like, I'm not allowed to go past it.
Give her permission, damn it.
How do I do that? Go ahead. I don't know.
So, I mean, from your cup, I'm just getting your emotions are getting in your way of your own path.
I want to say I'm surprised, but not really.
Can you do me next?
Yes, ma'am. Your question.
General life path stuff, like where the rest of the year is going, where my spiritual workings are going to take me.
Okay. All right. Right, you do have a couple little pieces that are directly on top of the lips, so I'm going to address those first. You do have a snake, and that can mean like lies or deceit. If you're thinking about the rest of the year, something isn't quite right going on right now. I'm lying to you. No, maybe not that soon.
Well, that concludes this episode.
But that's generally what snake means, and it's so early on. It doesn't necessarily mean someone is lying to you. It could just mean that something isn't what you think it is. Okay, and you have a big clump going on at the bottom, so much more of the substance of your year is going to be towards the end, which it being October, it's pretty accurate.
That unicorn still cracks me up. It's like the cutest looking unicorn ever.
So what did you say
Scandal.
arrow means? Because in this thing it says arrow is disagreeable situation.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I
Okay.
said arrowhead, but after looking at it so many times, I just kept seeing clump, 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 clump.
And when I saw the arrow in your cup too, it was very clearly pointing like forward. It wasn't like, pointing up or whatever. It was, to me, it was very clearly, okay, if I'm reading around this way, circular, it was going forward.
Okay, cool.
I'm getting kind of a duck. Quack, quack, quack. Now, in my history, ducks are a symbol of there's a lot going underneath. So you'll see the duck sitting on the top of the pond, and he's very serene and kind of gliding along, but his feet are going tick, 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 tick. So you, on the surface, seem really calm and collected, but you're like, you're working too hard.
Screaming internally.
Basically, give yourself a damn break. Stop taking on
Well, it's funny that you
everything.
say that because the next thing, I'm trying to address the large clump at the bottom, and the only feelings I'm getting is there's just too much going on. There's too much going on. So to me, it's screaming at me to say there's too much going on.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I tell you all the time, it's okay to say no, and you say yes to everything.
Yeah, it's not really allowing me to look at the individual sections of your clump. So you got duck syndrome with too much going on, and something right now is just not quite right. I don't get too much else of what that little piece is telling me, but I feel like it was important to bring up because it was a little bit of a snake happening right now.
All right. Interesting.
me next.
Amanda, you're up.
And your question?
My question was more like, it was general life, but also kind of bringing into love.
This is a great tea for that, can I just say? I didn't really address before different additives that are in the tea, like the ingredients that can affect your reading. Generally, if you have a plant correspondence thing, that works very well in tea too. So rose petals, obviously really great for love, intuition. Hibiscus can be as well. More of the passion end of that.
Yeah, normally I don't ask love questions, but for some reason it was just like, ask this.
Does it
All
help
right.
that it's pink?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I don't want to sound rude by saying this, but the first thing
Go
that
for
jumps
it.
out to me is the whole clump is shaped like a wine bottle.
Oh,
You're gonna find love in wine.
I mean, that's
Or
good too.
a potion bottle was my second thought. And being a love question, it could just be because I was thinking love potion number 9. In my
I
head.
mean, if it says forever alone, I'd be okay with that.
No, I don't think that's what that means. I think
Oh, Amanda.
You're not alone. You got us.
I know, that's why I'd be okay with it.
That's like the equivalent of you going to your mom and being like, Mom, am I going to be alone? No, it's okay, honey. You've got us to worry about. Any man will be lucky to have you.
When your parents take you aside and they're like, it's okay if you don't want to get married or have kids. And you're like, what?
I think what this means and what is jumping out to me is just you're looking too hard. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that was the first thing that jumped out at me. Generally, when I see, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, go for
Love
it.
questions are always so rusty for me.
Yeah.
I have such a hard, because there's so many emotions involved with it,
Yeah.
and I hate doing love readings on myself because it always gets jumbled up with my self-love on top of external love.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, a little bit of backstory. I had to learn to love myself before I could let anybody else love me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's pretty common with a lot of people.
Same.
So when I get this wine bottle / potion, love potion bottle, it kind of, I want to say that it's about what's inside that bottle and not about who's drinking the bottle or, where the bottle is. It's more about there's something inside there. So
Okay.
looking for love, I'm going to say look inside you, honey.
Yeah. 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 It was more of like a general love question. Like, it didn't have to be like a person. Like, it could have been me.
You are the person.
Because I am working on
Okay. That
self-love,
helps.
So
I'm going to also tell you that what's going on inside that bottle is really pretty looking. And it's really cool looking.
Yay.
That looks so cool. Like,
It's not an empty bottle, that's for sure.
oh, good.
And I want to point out that the tea also stained this cup, kind of. So you can use the stains or the negative spaces in your tea to find symbols.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find that happens with me very often, but it is. I just want to throw out there that is something you can do. So if you're having a hard time looking at the leaves themselves, try looking at the negative space too. But that's mostly what I'm getting out of your cup. So yay!
that actually helps a little bit more knowing that. Like, I didn't even. That's bad if an illustrator didn't even bother taking a negative space. Motherfucker.
Get back your degree.
I know. I need to give back the most expensive piece of paper I own. Yeah, because then going in, I'm like, oh, okay, negative space. I'm looking at the actual tea itself, but not even taking into the other stuff around it. I see kind of a heart here in the negative space, and that looks like an R. That looks like an R. Or a K.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Or an R. Something. See, this is why I think tea leaf reading wouldn't be my divination of choice, just because I'm so critical. I'd read into everything. Like, I'd sit here staring at it and staring at it and staring at it and be like, well, maybe this means this, or maybe this looks like this, or maybe this looks like that. Like,
And that's what really was intimidating to me when I first started. But you kind of have to let that go. You don't have to look at every piece, just kind of what jumps out at you. Use your intuition to figure out what the important shapes are and what that shape actually is.
don't
So
see
you
any
think
dollars.
it's better to like kind of go with like your first like gut instinct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. I was right about frog.
Ooh, fun arts and craft moment. If you feel like you use one method a lot over the other, or you have a set of symbols that you like to use, for instance, like witches' runes or regular Futhark runes, you can make your own cup. And I have been wanting to do this for a while. I need to just get off my ass and do it. But they have like special pens that you can use, and you can just draw on the cup yourself, or even draw on the saucer if you want to use your saucer for divination, and use those symbols.
That's genius. I have so many things going in my head right now.
I know,
see
Lauren's brain right now.
Or like you can use astrology symbolism, or you can use.
I've seen cups where they use the astrology in it.
The Cup of Destiny has some astrology symbols in it, as well as like other symbols. I'm terrible in astrology.
Yeah, like I just know the basics, like type in your birthday and what does it tell you, like.
But if there's a set or a family or whatever of symbols that you feel a good connection to, you can totally throw those in your cup and use them with it.
Cassidy's would be full of Pokemon.
Damn straight.
Hey, I'm
I
okay
feel like
with
that would make divination really fun. Have you ever done a Pokemon drawing? Because I think that would be cool.
I know, we were just
just talking about this in the car
like,
because
why isn't there Pokemon tarot?
Right.
Like, that
Oh
would
my
be
God, I would
genius.
buy it.
Yeah, my
Get it
brother
going.
last night,
Pulling
I
up a
did like a
trademark.
tarot reading on my mom, and then my mom was like, well, Gavin, who's my brother, why don't you have your sister do a tarot reading on you? He had never had it done before. And my brother's been going through a lot right now with like school and being super busy all the time because he's also in rowing and
Can relate.
orchestra
Can relate to
and
rowing.
all this crazy stuff. And so I did the reading on him. Everything made sense, by the way. And
Nice.
and later on, my mom sent me a video of my brother with his Pokemon cards doing tarot readings, quote unquote, on my uncle.
That's great.
Oh boy.
Kid. Oh.
I think probably the reason why there isn't an actual Pokemon card deck in tarot is just because there's so many.
Yeah,
Well,
that could be it.
There's
Yeah.
just so many now.
The, sun
The
card
5
just
of
being
Squirtles.
pulled forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got the basic, like, the different classes, right? It goes by, like, water.
The elements.
Or, yeah.
Well, now you have like celestial, like
Well, I
you
mean,
have
if you
all
stick
that kind
to
of
the
stuff.
OG, like the OG ones, and you kind of work from there. So, I mean, think about it. Original tarot, which we'll get into another topic or another episode, it started out as just playing cards, and then
Yeah,
people
cartomancy.
started to address different cards with different meanings. So, you could do it, but quickly get the trademark on that. Dead.
No, right?
Well, Nintendo owns the right to Pokemon, so
We could just
you'd have
edit
to
out every Pokemon.
literally have to go
Slightly
and
change
make.
their names a little bit.
Ugh.
Change the colors of them.
Pokewoman.
Yep.
I do like to throw in there that if you are like an elemental kind of person like I am, I love tea leaf reading because it does kind of, in the process, it imbues all 4 of them, or 5 if you're looking for the spiritual aspect. But I mean, obviously you have the water, you have the leaves, which are earth, and then you have the fire from the heat, and then the steam for air. So it's something that kind of embodies all of that together.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, me either.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I'm going to have to do a little more of these. Although, every time I'm like, there's just a clump.
It can be a little frustrating to start off with because, like I said, it took me a few months to really get like confident in my reading. And I feel like that's really true for any sort of divination, but with this one especially because you have to trust your instinct and your intuition on what that shape is and not get in your own way of it.
All right, I'll leave.
So, what we'll do, too, is we'll go ahead, we'll post each of our pictures, and you guys tell us what you see, you know? Maybe you'll see something in there that we don't. But other than that, I think that we've pretty much covered a vast majority of this topic. Thank you so much, Crystal, for coming out. Why don't you take us away with telling us a little bit more about your business and how people can find you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'd like to say this was a blast. I had so much fun hanging out with you guys, and I feel like we need to do this more often.
Yes.
Yes.
Seriously, yeah, likewise.
Part 2.
For my business, it's called Apothecary Teas. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Our website is apothecaryteastore.com, and there will be a link to that as well. And for my business, we have a wide variety of different teas. If you don't see something on the website that you like, you can always contact us at contact@apothecaryteastore.com and let us know, and I'll do my best to get that tea up there for you. Additionally, to celebrate our coming together here, I've created a coupon code for your listeners. If you just type in SBATSS, SBATSS, to receive 10% off of your order.
That's awesome.
I love that.
We'll also have that in the description as well.
Yes, description and in the episode notes. But other than that, again, like, follow, and subscribe. Please share your thoughts. As I said, we're going to post the pictures of our teacups. You let us know if you see anything in there that maybe we might have missed, or if anyone has anything to add to this topic, please. We are all ears and all eyes and all everything. So, as we said, this is a learning experience for all of us, and that means you're on the ride with us. So, with that, thank you for tuning in.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, guys. Stay spooky.
Bye!